Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a conflict that most people have probably never even heard of, but it completely changed the world. It's where modern warfare got its start, and it helped light the fuse for World War I. This is the story of the Italo-Turkish War, the forgotten prequel to the Great War. So, when you think about the first warplanes, what comes to mind? Probably dogfights over the trenches in France, right? World War I stuff. Well, what if I told you that's not where the story really begins? The first time an airplane was used in combat happened a few years earlier, and not over Europe, but over the deserts of North Africa. Just listen to this. In a letter home, a young Italian officer wrote those words. On November 1st, 1911, he actually did it. He leaned out of his rickety little plane over an oasis in Libya and dropped 4 small grenades. It was the world's very first air raid, and it happened during this little-known but absolutely pivotal conflict, the Italo-Turkish War. All right, so let's get into it. This war was fought between the Kingdom of Italy and the Ottoman Empire, and it was all about the territory we now call Libya. But this was way more than just a colonial land grab. It became a surprising and super deadly testing ground for all the military tech that would end up defining the 20th century. I mean, seriously, this war was like a sneak peek into the future. Just a week before that first bombing, another pilot flew the first ever aerial recon mission. And it wasn't just about the skies. This conflict also saw the first real tactical use of armored cars, plus the widespread use of modern machine guns and wireless telegraphy. This wasn't some old-fashioned skirmish. This was the dawn of industrialized war. Okay, so the big question is why? Why did Italy launch this high-tech but incredibly risky invasion of Ottoman Libya? Well, the answer is this really fascinating mix of ancient glory and very modern anxieties. You gotta remember, Italy was a pretty new country at this point, and it was desperate to prove it was a major player. They were really leaning into this whole heir to the Roman Empire thing, and they saw Libya, what they called their fourth shore, as lost land they needed to get back. They also hoped a new colony could solve problems like high unemployment back home. But the real pressure? They were terrified that if they didn't grab Libya, France or Germany would beat them to it. Now, Italy's first move wasn't actually with guns. At first, they tried what you might call soft power, using a bank, the Banco di Roma, to build up financial and cultural influence. But the Ottoman authorities kept pushing back. So impatience grew, and then, on September 28, 1911, Italy just completely switched gears. They issued an ultimatum: hand over Libya in 24 hours or it's war. The Ottomans tried to talk, but it was no use. War was declared the very next day. Italy went into this thing thinking it was going to be a walk in the park. Seriously, they had all this new tech, and they were absolutely convinced the local Libyan population would greet them as liberators, freeing them from the Turks. Oh boy, were they wrong. And this was probably their single biggest mistake, a massive intelligence failure. They just assumed the Arab and Berber tribes in Libya hated the Ottomans and would be thrilled to see the Italians show up. This one wrong assumption turned their quick colonial adventure into a long, brutal, grinding guerrilla war. So instead of a welcome wagon, what did the Italians find? A massive, and I mean massive, local resistance. See, the Ottomans only had about 5,000 soldiers there, but they were almost instantly joined by up to 50,000 local fighters. That's 10 times the official Ottoman army, and it completely blindsided the Italians. And make no mistake, this wasn't just some disorganized mob. This resistance was a powerhouse. You had this incredible mix of professional Ottoman military strategy and deep local knowledge. Ottoman volunteer officers, including a young captain who would later become the founder of modern Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, snuck in to train the locals. And they fought alongside fierce tribal leaders like the legendary Omar al-Mukhtar, who knew the desert like the back of his hand. And the Italians got a reality check, fast. In late October 1911, just weeks into the invasion, the resistance hit them hard, right outside Tripoli, taking out several hundred Italian soldiers. Just like that, the dream of an easy win was completely shattered. So now, the Italian army, with all its fancy new machine guns and airplanes, is basically stuck. They could take the coastal cities, sure, but they couldn't push 1 inch into the interior, which was completely controlled by the resistance. The whole invasion just grinds to a halt, becoming this frustrating and incredibly expensive deadlock. And this went on for months. Just a total stalemate. Italy poured more and more troops in, up to 100,000 men, but they were pretty much prisoners on the coast.
The resistance owned the desert. So Italy, getting super frustrated, decides, okay, if we can't win in Africa, we'll take the fight somewhere else.
This is a huge turning point. In May of 1912, Italy makes a fateful choice to expand the war beyond Africa. Their navy sails into the Aegean Sea and grabs a bunch of Ottoman islands, including Rhodes. The idea was to put direct pressure on the Ottoman government. But this decision, this was going to have massive consequences that nobody saw coming.
So here's where it gets really crazy. The war doesn't end because Italy finally wins a big battle in Libya. Nope. It ends because this conflict lit another fuse in a completely different and way more explosive part of the world, the Balkans.
Okay, watch how fast this happens. It's like a chain reaction. The countries in the Balkans, we're talking Serbia, Bulgaria, Greece, Montenegro, they're all watching this. They see the Ottoman army is totally tied up fighting Italy and Libya, and they smell blood in the water. So on October 8th, they declare war. Bam, the First Balkan War just kicks off. Now the Ottoman Empire is in an impossible spot. Fighting a two-front war it cannot possibly win. So just 10 days later, on October 18th, the Ottomans have to make a choice. They quickly sign a peace treaty with Italy, the Treaty of Auchi, so they can focus on the disaster in the Balkans. But the treaty was a mess. It was super vague. It sort of gave Libya autonomy but left Italy in charge. And Italy used that confusion to hang on to those Aegean islands they'd captured, which, well, that would cause even more problems later on. So let's just step back and look at the damage. This little colonial war was a massive catalyst. The Ottoman Empire came out of it fatally wounded, having lost its last territory in Africa. The Balkan Wars, which were directly kicked off by this conflict, just poured gasoline on all the nationalist fires in that region. You can literally draw a straight line from this war to the instability and rivalries in the Balkans that created the powder keg for the First World War. It's just an incredible reminder of how history is all connected, isn't it? A conflict that started with dreams of a new Roman Empire, and the world's very first air raid over a desert oasis ends up paving the road to a global catastrophe. It really makes you wonder, right? How many other forgotten conflicts are quietly shaping the world we live in today?